I had a dream where I was seeing the chariot of Ezekiel. I saw the four cherubim around it, circling around it. This is a picture of it. This is a good picture of it right here. You can see the central, throne of God, where all things are emanating out from. The four cherubim, representing the inner, the inner nature of the universe itself, of reality. God Elohim is the God of the creator God of the Bible, the invisible God, as we can, as I can pull up here in Genesis chapter 1. Elohim saw the light, that it was good, and he separated the light from darkness. So the light is Tao. Good. The word good right here is the Hebrew word tov, or wherein the V is silent, it would be to or Tao, the ancient root word of Tao or Tao. The ancients tapped into this word, this concept, no doubt based on the original understandings of God, of Elohim. We all come from one original culture, is what the Bible tells us, so it wouldn't be that much of a stretch to think that people who became what is the Asian language, the Chinese language, the word Tao, the word Tao, Tov, etc., could come from one original source and come from one background. Tao is the underlying principle of nature, of the universe, of all that is good in the universe, of all that flows throughout the entire universe. So that would be the light of God. God saw that it was good. The distinction between Elohim is the invisible God at this point. So God is making the distinction between the light and God, the source, the invisible God. Elohim being the Father, Word, and Spirit, the three that bear witness in heaven: Father, Word, and Spirit. Father, Word, and Spirit created the light, created the universe, emanating it from within God, from within that invisible point, within that, and Elohim saw that it was Tao, and he separated the light from the darkness. So he makes a distinction between his his invisible essence, Father, Word, and Spirit, and the created universe, that which is light, that which glows and shines and illuminates, which would be the universe, the stars, galaxies, etc. They all seem to shine. They all seem to be in this wrapped in this this space, and they're shining and illuminating and emanating outward. That would be the created light coming from the invisible God, the Father, Word, and Spirit. Father being the initial will and mind of creation. Word being the expression. So if you picture a mind and then the word coming outward, projecting outward. So you have this emanation point of the the multiverse in the universe, sort of ebbing and flowing in creation into a created system. Elohim is fully at one with the entire universe by that understanding. God saw the light, that it was Tao. So you have the emanated creation just existing, and then you have it, then it returns to, in a sense, to its source. So Elohim, when it returns back into Elohim, when it becomes one with Elohim, it's then Tao. it's then good. So you have him, he's not just creating and throwing a bunch of stars out there, but they then reciprocate. It's, like breathing. God breathed out the creation, and then he breathes in, and then and it rests. It's all inside of him. It's Tao when it all rests inside of him. The things he creates have a purpose, have a being, have a oneness with him in Tao, in that which is good. That would be the basis of Tao flowing throughout the entire universe. So that everything that's created, everything that has any kind of distinction, motion, is ultimately coming from the Father, coming from Elohim, Father, Word, and Spirit. Has a purpose in Father, Word, and Spirit. Has a purpose in time, in space and time, and then has a return. Has its time to then sort of collapse back into the Father. We could picture this in a simple understanding of a tree. God created he created all the trees, right? So the tree it grows up within a system. It grows out and expands for a while, and then the tree slowly collapses back in on itself and returns back into the ground. Never being distinct from Elohim. It fully is one with Elohim through the entire process, from the little seedling to its growth upward, its expansion, and its return. All things acting in this way in Elohim. So no different than with the universe or a star system, a planet, a galaxy, a forest, a body of water, etc. Everything operates in this fashion, as we see through the 6 days of creation. He speaks it into existence, and then it becomes Tao. He sees that it is good. It becomes Tao. It becomes that fully at rest within him as he's creating it. He's not just arbitrarily creating things in some random system. It's organically growing into Elohim, into its purpose and destiny and fullness. That's what I take from the Bible, from the understanding of the word Tao as the word good in the Bible. So we find that from the New Testament that Father, Word, and Spirit bear witness in heaven. So bear witness in the eternal realm is observing. Father, Word, and Spirit observe and create all creation. They're underlying all of creation. Father, Word, and Spirit. Elohim is Father, Word, and Spirit. All additional things that were created come from Elohim, source from Elohim. Father, Word, and Spirit created planets, people, angels, all types of celestial beings, aliens, anything that can be thought of or imagined, any other planet or life or virus or bacteria or anything that moves or exists, has to therefore come from Father, Word, and Spirit in its original essence. All things emanate from Father, Word, and Spirit, from Elohim. And all things we'll find were fully in Tao on day 7 when Elohim rested. And then you come to Genesis chapter 3, where it really starts to change. The system changes. So everything is, by the end of Genesis chapter 1, God saw that all that he had made, and it was very good, exceedingly Tao. That everything he had made was good. And there was evening and morning the 6th day. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their array. So the entire universe and the planet Earth were fully Tao at this point by Genesis chapter 2. By the 7th day, God had finished the work he had been doing, so on the 7th day he rested from all his work. So everything is fully enveloped in Tao at this point and blessed by Elohim. Father, Word, and Spirit is flowing through, in other words, from the very beginning of the universe until the end, flowing through everything, perfectly aligned. Nothing in sin, hell, or death. Nothing in destruction. No sense of evil in the universe at this point. God blessed it, and he rested on it from all his work that he had been creating, and that he had made. And now you get to the point where Jehovah Elohim, the Lord God, placed Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and the serpent comes and teaches them the knowledge of good and evil, Tao and Ra. So you now have the serpent. What was Tao on the basis of Elohim? In other words, Elohim ascribed the properties of Tao to everything, declaring it all to be fully one with him and fully good. The serpent now makes a distinction. The serpent is this is dualism. The serpent says, if you truly want to be like God, like Elohim, you have to know good and evil. You can know what is Tao and all that is Ra or error. All that goes against Tao. That's the true understanding of knowledge. Not just resting in Elohim and resting in the Tao. Not resting in the good and accepting Elohim as accepting his oneness through all things. This is a violation of the initial statement of Genesis 2, where he says he fully rested and all things were blessed and were good. So the serpent is introducing a system of law, of this is good, this is evil, implying the evil by deduction, right? I mean, you could say drinking water is good. Drinking mud would be evil, therefore. Since water is good for you, drinking mud is not good for you, etc. There's a never-ending list of things that we could say are bad or erroneous. Once you create that intellectualized approach, you then create a system of do's and don'ts, laws, rules, rather than just the natural order, the pure and perfect natural order of Elohim, of God, which doesn't ascribe rules and religion and types of clothing you have to wear or buildings you have to go into worship. No, they were in a perfect state of nature, of the natural order. Adam and Eve were perfectly in a state of raw nature, without any shame, fully naked before God. That would be what we might look at today as primitive, but more of a state of enlightenment. That natural order flowed perfectly through them as well. So when they drank the water, it was pure. Their bodies were pure. Their bodies were constantly purified by drinking natural fresh water from the river, by eating berries and nuts and berries and eating a pure, healthy diet. I would imagine they were much healthier at that time, much healthier, much more physically astute, having no disease, no cancer, no illnesses, no sickness, living and operating the way nature intended, the way they're meant to act in nature, fully at one with nature. It describes a good climate as well. So they didn't need fire and thick clothing. They didn't have to necessarily kill animals to survive or anything like that. Pure and natural, in a state of rest constantly. Having unlimited free time, having unlimited joy and love and space and fresh air and sunlight and waters and rivers and trees. It's that pure and perfect natural order that's been disrupted. We've created since then systems of law, systems of rules, cities, hierarchical structures that are not implied in nature. They're not there. We create them. We've created all of these systems that integrate knowledge into people's lives and also complicate life, complicate things that were once very simple. So now we've polluted the world, we've polluted the earth, we've polluted the waters, and now we need to filter the waters that we've already polluted with chlorine and chemicals, and pay paradise and put up the parking lot. Where fruits and nuts and berries once grew in abundance. Now God says there will be thorns and thistles. We've lost that connection to the natural order, and the more and more we stray away from what was pure and right initially to begin with. And so God, that would be, in essence, pure Taoism would be Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Pure Tao would be living purely within the natural order, as purely as possible, without complication. The Taoist seeks to decomplicate their lives, less and less complication, less and less stress, less and less strain. That sounds a lot like the Edenic life. That sounds a lot like what God initially intended in the very beginning. And we learn of Melchizedek, the Ancient One, the Ancient of Days. Melchizedek, the High Priest of Elyon, the High Priest of the Eternal God. Melchizedek represents that oneness. Melchizedek becoming the priest of Elyon, the Most High God. Melchizedek would be one with Tao. He is the return to the good of Elohim, the Tao. Now we can look at these. These are ancient Taoist sages. You have the three pure ones. Here's a photograph of the sages, three pure ones. One being a considered to be one with the Tao. So if you're a person or a being, and you've fully realized the true nature and spirit of Elohim, of the all in yourself, and you've then merged with the Tao in yourself, it becomes as though you were eternal, as though you were immortal. That's what seems to be described of Melchizedek. Melchizedek is the high priest forever, losing his ancestral line, losing his home, wandering. Melchizedek seems to be an ascetic, and somewhat of an ascetic, somewhat of a very ancient Taoist sage is actually what he starts to sound like, just like Enoch as well. Enoch sounds very similar. So I think this ancient Taoism is deeply integrated and rooted in ancient culture and in the ancient world and in ancient philosophy. No doubt, I think Melchizedek is that, quite possibly that supreme pure one, Tao De Tianzun, the heavenly Lord of the virtue of Tao, also called Lao Yun, the supreme highest sovereign. So just like Elyon or Lao Yun, sounding very similar in name. Supposedly the whom Lao Tzu manifested through to write the Tao Te Ching. It is believed that the Tao Te Ching was authored by Lao Tzu in 500 BC, but by an ancient master, an ancient sage who acted through him and acted with him in his journey. That's no different. That's also found in Judaism and Christianity. We believe Enoch, for example, Enoch is an eternal being and a saint walking with Elohim. So Enoch is also co-eternal. We believe Elijah or Laoja, I actually believe the El and Lao are actually correlated. So Elijah and Elisha. Elijah being also eternal, walking with God. It says he did not die a natural death. He walked into the glory of God. So we have these concepts already. We have the idea that Elijah can transcend space and time. Elijah, so along with Enoch, Melchizedek, are transcendent. We have others that are transcendent throughout the biblical text, saints and angels and other beings. So this is not uncommon. These Taoist ideas are not uncommon to what was believed in of the ancient biblical sages and prophets. He was identified as a personification of the Tao. Laozi is an incarnation of him. So Laozi is acting in his will, in his stead of this eternal being. So this could this be the personification of Melchizedek? Again, the Melchizedek order, the order of the eternals, the order of, again, eternal time, losing yourself in the Tao, in the good of God. That would seem to be what Melchizedek did. Melchizedek lost his place, lost the way, lost his place in his familial ancestral home, his line, lost his earthly life. He gave up on his earthly life, becoming an ascetic, finding eternal life, giving up earthly, becoming eternal. This theme comes up throughout Taoism as well. I'll go into the throne of Taisheng Lajun, and then I'll depict the throne in the biblical text of heaven. So this is Taisheng Lajun with again wearing the golden silk, sitting on a golden throne. In some cases having the Tao in his hand. The Tao here, you can see it, the pearl of the Tao. He's found the pearl of wisdom, the pearl of great price, the heavenly pearl, seemed to be spoken by Jesus. Jesus talks about the pearl. Here are some other good depictions of Tiansheng Lao Jun, or Elyon, we might say. Lao Yun, or El Elyon. I find these very similar. And just as with Melchizedek, Melchizedek is a physical representation of Lao Yun, of the Tao, of the Father. Same with Taisheng. He has multiple different names. I'm trying to remember these names, but this one looks very similar, as we can see in this depiction. Here you can see the golden chariot he rides, the throne chariot, the gold shining around his head, the fire. And I'll just pull up a simple depiction of the throne in Revelation's throne. You'll find a very similar depiction. Here's the Ezekiel throne, looking very similar. Here he is, right here, holding the 7 stars, holding the 7 seals, the scroll of truth, as mentioned in the book of Daniel. So again, Daniel is seeing the glory of God coming to him from the east. He's meeting a man carrying a scroll, the scroll of truth. Tao Te Ching means scroll. Tao Te means is translated as truth. Here is Taisheng Laojun right here on the golden throne of heaven, carrying the scroll, in some cases carrying the Tao, Here is the heavenly throne in the book of Revelations, where Jesus then goes to the throne, receiving that scroll, opening the seals, opening the meaning and definition thereof. Revelations 10, the scroll is finally revealed, and Jesus also becomes one with the throne of heaven, sitting at the right hand of the Father, as we know. So this being hands Jesus the scroll, the man with the glowing face, the man on the golden throne. Taiseng Lajun is known to have also composed the Tao Te Ching from the heavenly state, transmitting it. Many similar things with Taiseng Lajun and Melchizedek, and the eternal, the Ancient of Days, the eternal immortal, representing the Tao, becoming an embodiment of the Tao, just as Jesus becoming an embodiment of the Son of Man, the Son of God, and the Father. Jesus is also becoming that embodiment in the Revelation. So it's being revealed. There's an exchange taking place. Jesus giving his life from his earthly life, just as Melchizedek did. Jesus is giving his earthly life up. He died on the cross. He lost his chances at life on this earth. But he's making a trade. He's then going into the heavenly place and activating and fulfilling the scroll, the meaning of what the good of God, the Tao, making all things good again. Jesus said, the New Testament then says, whatsoever things are good, dwell on these things, whatsoever things are Tao. All things worketh after the good of those that love God. All things worketh after the good of those that love Elohim. All things, in other words, become Tao. All things integrate into one, into Tao, for those that love God, that truly love God. Those that love Elohim, the God in the very beginning, Father, Word, and Spirit. Jesus is the representative. Jesus is the system of integration. He's able to take the mortal and through the system of heaven, through the heavenly court, the heavenly throne room, draw people into the Father, back to the Father. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. Metaphysically speaking, Jesus is now metaphysically sitting on that throne in the midst of the universe, in the midst of all things, just as the Father was in the very beginning when he started to create the universe. Jesus, the Lamb that was slain, is now also there. He meets the definition of Tao, of fulfilling the goodness of God, even through a sinful and treacherous world that spat on him, killed him, beat him, whipped him with lashes. He forgave them. Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. He's speaking to the Father, Elohim. Father, Word, and Spirit. Jesus is bartering with the Father. Forgive them, they know not what they do. Forgive them, Father. Speaking back into the creation, the origins of all creation. Speaking back to his Father. To the source. From the source to the point where Jesus speaks, God mends what was broken and what was lost, and he's forgiving sin constantly. A constant record in heaven that can be changed and can be overcome through the blood of the Lamb. The Lamb pouring out constantly before the throne into all creation, drawing all men unto himself, back to the Father, back into oneness with Elohim. Of course, changing our nature in the process. Of course, our nature is fallen, separated from Elohim, separated from Adam and Eve in Eden. To return to Tao once again, we need integration. We need a system. We need a way we need the way. We need the truth. We need the life. So we have to confess our sins, change our character, change our behavior. Of course, change internally, change physically and metaphysically. It's an exchange. It's a barter. It's a system. But we can there is a way. We can reintegrate into the way of eternal immortality. Now through Jesus, as physical flesh and blood beings, through Jesus Christ, through the Son of Man, and into heaven through the heavenly throne room, through the breaking of the seven seals and the revelations of the scroll, and then return to the wellspring of life, which is the Tao, the wellspring of life being that the emanation of all things, the emanation of all life, of all creation, and the purpose of all creation. Father, Word, and Spirit. The Spirit is the natural purpose of all things. We're not meant to live in sin, suffering, violence, degradation, and chaos. Does none of this fit with the purposes and the desire of good of Elohim?